with whoever he puts in front of me.
Yeah.
Because if you would have told me that I could be sober, you could tell me that I could be celibate and I could be faithful, and if you could tell me that I could have done all that, I would not have believed you. It felt like Mount Everest. I'm not climbing Mount Everest, but I would have been one of the dead bodies up there because there's no way.
Yeah.
How long ago did you guys start this? I was trying to track back on your YouTube.
A little over a year.
Yeah.
And
Neat.
we didn't take it serious at all.
Like we're just going to hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I hate intros. They're super awkward. So how do you pronounce your first name, by the way?
Chryselle.
Chryselle.
Okay.
Chryselle.
I was going to say Chryselle, I think, but...
Chryselle.
It's like first name Chris, last initial L, and you smash them together. Chryselle.
I'm literally going to start this just as is.
You're good.
This is perfect. I like
It's
it
just
way
we
better.
like just to be normal.
No,
we don't want it
don't
so
be like scripted.
uptight and
Yeah. It's a conversation.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, we appreciate you coming here on a Saturday night at 7 o'clock at night.
And it's freezing outside.
It's wonderful. It's my favorite.
Was it 12 degrees? What's your car say?
It's 12. Yeah, it's 12. Yep.
It was 12 when we were out on the lake
Yep.
today.
It hasn't. It's supposed to be more. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I know.
It's awesome.
Spring.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Do you have a spot where you want to start? Do you want to start your upbringing, maybe?
Gosh, this is fun because I just shared how I shared my life map, and it was like I don't think I've ever been given the opportunity to tell my life story. Like I always share parts of my story, but it depends on who I'm sitting with, what we're talking about,
Right.
and what's the goal. You know, and for me, the goal is like hope.
Yeah.
Always. And the goal is to never share my story with a sense of poor me.
Yeah.
I love it. I talk about that all the time.
And I used to live there for a really long time, up until like 2017. It was their fault and because of this and poor me and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, and so when things began to shift, that mindset began to shift. So, you know, let's see, I could go all the way back, all the way back. I was born in 1976. So I'm 48 years old, and it's been quite a journey. If you asked me if I'd be sitting here, I'd be absolutely not. I would probably be not living here, but this is where God has me. So I keep asking. I'm like, are you sure I have to stay here still? And the answer's still, yeah, you got to stay there. You're not done in New York. I'll let you know when you can move. I'm like, but my kids, okay. So I was born locally in Rome, and my parents were 70s. You know, they came out of the 60s era, and there was a revolution that took place in the 70s called the Jesus movement. And that's where my parents met Jesus in the 70s. And the funny story is that my dad was going to become a priest and my mom was going to become a nun, and they met each other and didn't. And so I'm like, okay, cool. So long story, I've got a younger brother. He is 45. He's currently in Florida, and I grew up in a Christian home. My parents were pastors for as long as I can remember. Grew up in church and Christian school. The thought was that, that'll help. And they found out that I'm the problem. And I bring my problems wherever I go. And so I grew up semi-sheltered in the 80s. And when I was younger, we moved to the Catskills, and they pastored a church there.
Okay.
And I would say, now looking back, I'm like, oh, that's when my resentment with God started. Because they uprooted me at 9 years old to go live in the middle of nowhere. Now, as an adult, I'm like, send me. Send me. There's no McDonald's, there's no shopping areas. Like, I went to go visit as like a healing part of my process, and I'm like, why did I hate this? Why did I not like this? And now I'm like, oh, can I live here?
Send me back.
Let me go, redo. So I started, looking back, my whole life has been plagued with dysfunction. Every family's dysfunctional. And that's why I found great peace in going through my healing process. It's like, there's no family that doesn't have dysfunction. Some just mask it differently. Right. And they're like, I'm good. I'm like, oh, you're not. But okay, sure. We'll play along. And so I grew up there, and that's where I started an addiction to pornography at 9 years old. And 9 years old. And back in the 80s, it came from the big satellite. It's around here you see once in a while, the big satellite dishes. And
a little glitchy on the TV.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
not
like
clear.
you kind of
yeah.
But back then they didn't have all the regulations, so if you just pinned it right.
Right.
Now this was something nobody knew about. Like my parents didn't know. Nobody knew that this was something that was hidden. And so through the process of my growth and healing and Jesus, what surfaced was an incident of child abuse when I was younger, when I was about 3 or 4. Which truly, that's where stuff began. But, so now that I'm walking with Jesus and I'm allowing him to show me things where I'm like, in life and allowing myself to say what really's gone on in my life, ask more questions. And so that's what really opened the door to sexuality. Where as a child, you're not capable of comprehending that. Like it goes into this thing. And so I remembered it differently. And I told myself all the lies that child abuse happens, child sexual abuse. It's my fault. I'll get in trouble and I can't tell anyone and they won't believe me. And so my favorite part of working with people is exposing the lies that they're believing because I didn't know they were lies. And we can't grow until we see the lie.
Yeah.
Because we don't know it's a lie.
Right.
It's like the sky's blue. Great, the sky's blue. No, it's gray. Are you sure? It's blue. And it was this process. So that led to multiple, dysfunction in sexuality where hyper-focused on boys and, but I was still playing church. Still going to church.
Right.
Good church girl, going to youth group, doing all the things, but this huge struggle of this addiction. And so then I became sexually active later in my teen years, and that led to more dysfunction. Got married because figured if I get married, that'll fix stuff. I'm trying to live this, I say it's the put together Christian life. You see people like, oh, they got it all together. They're married, they got their kids.
It's what you see on the outside.
It's what you see.
Yeah.
So you're like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I want that.
Right.
So I'll do that. By the way, that's not the answer.
Yeah.
People are like, if I have a sex problem, I'll just get married. That'll fix it. I'm like,
Yeah.
That's not the problem. There's other stuff. And so I couldn't be faithful to my husband. I really wanted to, but this is what I share with people is like, sex wasn't intimacy. It was an activity. It was like going to coffee. It was like going to the gym. So having sex with people outside of my marriage was not a big deal. But obviously it is. Horribly. So one of those affairs ended in a pregnancy. And my son, who is my oldest, he's 20, he'll be 25 in July. He was about a year, and I got pregnant by this guy. And nobody knows I have an addiction problem. Nobody knows that I'm dealing with, depression. Nobody knows I'm having affairs. Like, this is an entirely hidden life.
Right.
Fast forward, and I'll back up, as I got diagnosed bipolar. No kidding. I was living 2 different lives. I was bipolar. You know what I mean? Like, there's your diagnosis. Yeah, but. So, nobody knew, and I'm pregnant.
And how old were you at this point?
27.
Okay.
27. So some people say old enough to know better. But are you?
Growth is different journeys. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 27. Yeah. So Keegan was 3. No, he was 1. He was about 1 year old. And I went to a friend. So I had lots of church friends. And I didn't feel like I couldn't tell anybody. Like, I didn't know anybody who struggled with pornography, any females. I didn't know any girls who struggled with sex. I didn't know anybody. Who am I supposed to talk to about this? So I talked to a friend. She's like, you got to get an abortion. I'm like, yeah, yep. So back in those days, God, I can't believe I'm saying that. But
I say it too.
back in those, I'm like, oh my. But looking back, there was this belief system, right? You would say, don't tell anybody until you're like 12 weeks. So then you really know that the baby's, viable or whatever. So in my mind, I rationalized, well, it's not really a baby until 12 weeks, so I need to hurry up and have an abortion before 12 weeks, because then it's not a baby. And looking back, I'm like, I know it's a lie now. And so I was 9 weeks pregnant and had an abortion, and that was the first day that I got high with an intention to get high. Like, I had smoked weed a couple times. I had drank a little bit. But that was the first day that I need to escape reality.
So to back up, was anyone Did you talk to anybody like about that? And did they help you? Like, if you do it, so you just were like alone.
I had a friend who said you need to do it, and she dropped me off and picked me up and bought the weed that day. Yeah, it's etched in my memory.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there was a lot that they told me that was a lie.
Yeah.
And I wish somebody told me.
Yeah.
One of the lies was, it's just a clump of cells. Lie number one. Lie number two is, it's just a quick procedure and you'll be back to normal. Lie number three is, you'll carry on with your life as normal. 3 lies. It was a baby. It wasn't a clump of cells. It wasn't just a easy procedure. And life never went back to normal. And nobody told me.
Yeah.
And it was like, But I didn't know they were lies. Now, this is back in 2001. I didn't know they were lies until 2017. Because I experienced what is called post-traumatic abortion syndrome, which 82% of women who have abortions experience.
Jeez.
And nobody knows. Oh, not nobody, but people that they don't know.
Well, it's so hard.
They
There's
don't tell
not
you.
enough awareness about what you're gonna feel like, whichever way,
Right.
whatever your choice is.
Yeah.
No one talks about it, and like teenagers or even adults that have abortions are scared to talk about it.
82%, and it's like, what percentage of women, I was like kids even, that get abortions are probably 15, 16, 17. So they're making this lifelong decision with no information, not like.
Yeah, but that percentage, I bet you, is higher because that's just the people that say it.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
All we know. It has to be higher.
I agree. And I believe you hit on a point of the younger age. It's probably 100%.
Yeah. How
Do you know
could it
what I
not
mean?
be?
Like they take the average
Yeah.
between 12, 13 to 60.
Yeah.
But if you were to condense that, I'm curious now,
Right.
from 12 to 20,
Like the different groups. Right.
what's the percentage that you experience these symptoms?
Yeah.
Probably 100%. Why? Well, looking back, I took the life of a baby.
Yeah.
I'm cautious how I share this because I want to be very sensitive because I don't want people to feel shame if they've had an abortion.
Yeah.
That is my biggest thing. Like, I want people to know you are loved. I love you. Jesus loves you. This is not something, and I want you to know that you're going to meet that child one day. And so I share with people that I have 3 children. I said, I have 2 sons here on earth and 1 in heaven that I can't meet till one day.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to meet her. And I'm going to be like, you were hanging out with Jesus all these years. I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, right.
But I had to walk through a healing process to get there because the other lie that I believe, they didn't tell me, but I believed it, is I didn't have the right to mourn her death because I caused it.
Wow.
I mean, there's a lot of people that can relate to that.
And that was a tough one. I was like, because I'm like, I don't have the right to feel sad
Yeah.
because I chose it.
My heart hurts for anyone in that position.
Yeah.
That has to make that choice. And my heart hurts for the people that are doing that stuff to people with no heart of their own to comfort them or to be cruel to them. I just don't, my mind can't understand that.
It can't wrap my head around, I can't wrap my head around, for a while though. I'll say before I met Jesus and got sober, and that's, my life went downhill after the abortion. I mean, it just plummeted. The mental health diagnoses got all handed out and all the meds got handed out, and then give me all the pills, give me all the drugs, give me all the alcohol, all the dysfunction, because I'm trying to numb this pain that I didn't realize that's what I was doing for all those years. I couldn't figure out, I was like, why don't you just stop? I'm like, I would love to figure out why. But it truly wasn't until I met Jesus that I recognized that he created this part of me that is only able to be filled by him. Like, a relationship with him is what I'd been seeking, but I didn't know that's what I was seeking. And people think Jesus is a mean, judgmental God. Like, I always say, well, I didn't want my parents' God, because the God that I knew that they knew, but wasn't the same God, was the one that was in heaven, like, mad at me because I messed up. Nope. Like, he's not mad at me. He's like, hey, come hang out with me. I love you. And so as I went on this process, I began to learn how to accept forgiveness. But I didn't want to.
It's got to be very hard. Yeah.
Because I wanted to, I deserve it.
Yeah.
I deserve the pain. I don't deserve anything good.
Yeah, but it's like, how long do you deserve that pain?
Right. That's the lie.
Yeah.
That's the lie. And, even being a mom, even going through divorce, I'm like, I didn't deserve my kids. And so it really damaged how I parented because I didn't feel worthy to be their mom. But the wild part of it is that I don't deserve anything God's given me, but it's because of his grace. Like, if I deserved it, it wouldn't be grace and mercy. And I'm like, it's in his kindness that he allows me to do what I do, grow, heal, all this stuff. So, in sharing with people about abortion, it is a subject that I tiptoe around. Because if it's said wrong and presented wrong, it comes across as, who do you think you are?
Right.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell you, it's just my biggest thing, there's one day a year where churches share on the sanctity of life. And I hate that Sunday, a lot of Sundays, because if you're not careful, it comes across as judgmental. And
Yeah.
2 out of 5 women have had an abortion who are sitting in church.
Wow.
There's a very large percentage. And so,
It's almost like belittling to them.
so it could be perceived that way. If healing hasn't taken
Right.
place, you have a lot of shame. And anything, I couldn't say the word abortion. Couldn't say it. Couldn't say it. It wouldn't come out of my mouth until 2018. I couldn't say it. Terminate, medical,
Yeah.
didn't have,
Right.
chose not to. That word, that's too real. So it's so yeah, that's one of my bigger part of my stories where it impacted my life. It's like you hit a fork in the road. Ow.
Yeah.
I bet that's for a lot of people too.
And the funny thing is that, have an abortion, so he doesn't know you're cheating, so the marriage doesn't end. Newsflash. It's shocking, the marriage ended. You know what I mean? So it's the thing that I was avoiding was, what's hidden always comes to the surface.
Yeah.
And you can't, this is what I share with women that I sit with, is that pregnancy is a grenade. It's going off. And you're not going to be okay. You're going to change. You're not going to be the same today when that grenade goes off. There's not one easy answer.
Right.
And we're just created differently. And I just share with them, how can I help you through this process?
Yeah.
So that's part of my story.
You're placed in this point of your own life, I guess, you could say, to help others. You went through that, and now you have grown and continue to grow and continue to heal.
Yeah.
Exactly where you're supposed to be at exactly the right time.
Exactly.
We've been saying,
To help others.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I always share, that's why I share. I'm like, I have come to know there are no coincidences, and there are no.
That gives me goosebumps. We say that all the time.
All the time. There's no coincidence. They're like, oh, I wonder. No such thing.
When you start paying attention to the signs, I realize, and it just makes me wonder, how long have I been missing these signs that I've, coincidence. It's not a coincidence. And
Irony is you haven't, you just didn't see them.
Yeah, exactly.
You weren't supposed to. It's I would call them God pins, where I'm like, oh, that was you. Oh, okay. And once our eyes become open to certain things, and it's really neat to see, and it's where it's encouraging because there's this lie of, oh, if I would have just done this or this or this, but that's a lie, because if we were supposed to be there, we would be.
Yeah.
We're exactly where you're supposed to be. So I find hope in that because I haven't missed anything.
Right.
So yep.
But you allowed yourself to grow and learn though from it. You didn't, where you are at right now. You went through all that hard stuff. You could still be.
True.
Going through all that hard
stuff.
And
that's what I struggle with. I'm like, did I just grow up? And then did Jesus not and then I realized no, I look around me and I have friends and I see people that I used to party with and they haven't changed.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you're leveling up and they're still down here.
And I'm I'm like, did I just but then I realized everybody has a choice.
Yeah.
Everything is a
100%.
choice.
Yep.
And I have a choice to whether to do what God's asking me to do or to be like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And he'll say, okay.
Yep.
He'll let me say no.
He's going to put all this in front of you.
Yeah, he'll be like, go ahead.
This is for you.
You can have this.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay, great. So, I was just talking to my son about that. I was like, you know what? God has a plan, but I have to be willing to say yes to it.
Yeah.
And, every day I have to say, okay, today's Saturday. What are we doing today? And I'll be like, I don't want to do anything. He's like, too bad.
Yeah.
You're going to hang out in the middle of winter, in the middle of nowhere at 7 o'clock at night. I said, okay.
It's dark and freezing.
I will love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, it's like when we drove to Miles's house last night.
Yeah.
He's got a camp on Panther Lake apparently, and we got there what 6:30 or so, but we worked all day and super burnt out. But when we pulled up, it was cool because it was beautiful.
The roads were so bad.
I was gonna say it was pretty bad last night.
Went in the ditch.
I went to stop. I was doing 5 miles an hour in my big truck, and I went to stop to make a left turn to go on to the private drive, and I just kept sliding.
Don't turn around.
Yeah.
No big deal. That's awesome. Yeah, it's really neat. But through the process of
real quick, do you want to just move your mic down about 3 inches or so? Just slide it down with it. Sorry, I see it clipping, which means just a little bit sensitive audio, but it's fine.
No, I gotta find the magnet.
I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Did I put it in my shirt? Oh, there it is.
We lost the magnet last night. We just found it today.
Yeah.
Oh, so funny.
Who does all the editing?
I do.
He does 99.9% of it, but
99%.
yeah, I do some.
99%.
Yeah.
I was going to say 99.9%.
Well,
Lord. Not rocket science, Chryselle.
might be stuck. Do you have a belt or
I was
something?
gonna say, is it my bra? Like, what the hell?
There's a clip on it, and then later if you need to shake it out.
I'm so annoyed right now. I won't even lie. See what you get. Complicated.
That's funny.
I could have turned it down.
There it is.
Oh, you found it.
Got it. Okay, let's try this again. Where? Here?
Just yeah, they'll probably be better.
All right, perfect. I can do that.
Yep. Actually,
Maybe. I don't know. I tried 10 minutes ago.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You do all the editing. Good for you, man.
Yeah.
It takes so much time.
If only I had more time. That's all.
Or an editor.
In time, you will have one.
We will.
In time.
Yeah.
God will send you somebody.
No coffee.
So, coffee. Yeah, and that's what stopped on the way. Right on cliffs. So, right after I had my abortion, I landed in so again, nobody knows what's going on. And I'm trying to go back to normal. And so then I got diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And got on meds for that.
Did the meds help?
This is what I share with people. From my perspective, what I believe is they kept me alive long enough to meet Jesus.
Okay.
They for me, they numbed me, not healed me.
Yes.
That gives me goosebumps.
It was a Band-Aid on something that needed surgery.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to find out what surgery was needed.
Love it.
Because, again, this is some of my belief system that I've learned over the last 7 years in my own life, is that there's fruit of our life. Depression is a fruit. Joy is a fruit. Anxiety is a fruit. And it stems from a root. Yeah. What's your root system look like? So, I had to when I met Jesus in August of 2017, and I surrendered my life and said, okay, I'm done trying my way. I stopped everything except for Adderall because I was told I can't function without it. Until I found out that's a lie too.
They just wanted you to
Here I am functioning.
Yeah.
I'm just so that was one of the harder ones, but I was on 7 different meds. And, on top of alcohol and weed and coke and pills that aren't mine. And,
How did you feel after getting off Adderall? I'm curious.
well,
And how hard was it?
I'll say this, that I don't recommend this. I always tell people this is my story.
Yeah.
I never tell anybody to get off their meds. That is my soapbox. But my story is I just stopped.
Yeah.
Because no doctor that I went to wanted me off of them.
Interesting.
Nobody I wanted, will you take me out? No, you need to taper down. You need to be on them. I said, fine, if nobody wants to do it, then I'll just do it. And and I don't recommend that. I always say go to your doctor. And then you have to pray and obey and talk to Jesus about it. Yeah. So the hardest thing, if we're being honest, the hardest thing for me is that, of course, I gained weight.
Okay.
So as a female, that was something that I had to wrestle with.
Yeah.
So my first year of sobriety, I put my scale away and chose to concentrate on being sober and following Jesus because
Good for you.
I would refuse. I have a saying, again, that's like, I'd rather have you fat and sober and loving Jesus than skinny and in the grave.
Yeah.
Because that's what addiction does. It kills you. And society says, I need to be 100 pounds and this. And it's still a struggle. You know what I mean? Like there is still, so now it's a health thing and blood pressure and blah, blah, blah. But I had a hard time, but I had to recognize for me, my symptoms of ADHD was trauma response and lack of self-discipline for myself. So I began to set myself up in like schedules and, think about, there's a book called Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer. And one of her lines is think about what you're thinking about. How many times do we just let our brain run?
Yeah.
No wonder I have anxiety.
Right.
I got 1,000,000 miles a minute.
Yeah.
So it was tough.
Yeah.
It is still that every once in a while, it's like, I could really use better. I'm like, no, that's a slippery slope because it's all, for me, I recognize that it's only one chemical away from meth. And
It's funny. I was literally just thinking that in my head. I was going to say something, but
it's one chemical away from meth.
both
And I
amphetamines.
never did meth and I never stuck a needle in my arm, but that is only because nobody handed me one.
Okay.
I truly believe if you handed me one, I would have.
Wow.
And I'm grateful for God's grace.
He didn't put that in front of you. Well,
Yeah.
not,
He did. No, he kept me from it. And
Right. Yeah.
when I was
I just want to throw in for my listeners that might be only tuning in for your episode, for people that
Yeah,
like I
that's
lost my
true.
sister in 2020 to
Oh,
a heroin overdose. So it's like,
I'm
tonight.
so sorry.
Well, no, it's 19
Sucky.
years of, she was functional on and off, and she was doing good for quite a while, but
Okay.
as soon as it turned into, I believe, heroin and meth towards the end, is like it's
Yeah.
a wrap. And
That's hard because like the recovery rate years ago used to be 75 to 80%. You could recover. Like I don't call myself in recovery. I'm a recovered alcoholic, substance abuser. But the rate now is down to 3%.
it's almost like it's working as intended, if you ask me.
We'll have to have a chat offline.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, definitely.
I've learned a lot.
Oh, so have I.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I've learned that I live in opposite land.
Yeah.
And that's how I
we all
live. I'm like, you said this? Okay. Yeah, that's a whole nother subject.
Mm-hmm.
And,
We can talk later. on that. Yeah.
So it's been a tough road because I live, like I share with people that I know that God has given, my mission in life is to love the unlovable, reach the unreachable, and bring hope to the hopeless. How do I do that? With whoever he puts in front of me.
Yeah.
Because if you would have told me that I could be sober, if you could tell me that I could be celibate and I could be faithful, and if you could tell me that I could have done all that, I would not have believed you. It felt like Mount Everest. I'm not climbing Mount Everest, but I would have been one of the dead bodies up there because there's no way.
Yeah.
So I never heard anybody say there was hope.
So during that time, you didn't have any support? Was it?
I don't know if I didn't have it.
You didn't accept it?
I didn't accept it, or it came from a place of let me fix you.
Okay. So after you got the abortion, I just want to, in my head, get a timeline. So did you get into like drugs and whatnot prior to your divorce or after the divorce?
So, great question. So, I smoked weed once or twice and drank a few times when I was like 18, 19.
Yeah.
Then didn't for all those years. And then as soon as I decided to end the marriage, it was off to the races. And that is when life in 2004 went sideways really bad. I mean, I don't remember. I blocked out more than I can count. I was in some really rough places. I joke that I went from being married to a state trooper to running drugs for my drug dealing boyfriend within 6 months.
Wow.
And I'm like, I look back and people are like, I used to laugh, but I'm like, that's pretty slippery slope quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Very
so it
quick.
tells me I wasn't that far off from here to begin with. You know what I mean? I'm like, I was playing there pretty quick. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I mean, I was just living life, and it was who I surrounded myself with. And, there's a saying is water seeks its own level. And so the water for me, I didn't know that's where I was at. I didn't know how dark and difficult my life was and how depraved it was.
Right.
It's just where I landed.
Yeah.
I didn't land, it was tough for my parents because, we believe as parents how we raise them matters, which again, I do believe. But they couldn't understand why I was such a mess. And it wasn't until the last 7 years that I opened things up from, childhood molestation to porn addiction to and then when I began to unpack all of that for them, they were like, oh, now we understand.
Yeah.
So I always share with people that I don't see addiction and I don't see sexual dysfunction and I don't see, I don't see the fruit. I'm always saying what's really going on.
Right.
Why? I ask the whys because I like it. You like the things that you do? Like, you like hanging out on the street? No, really. Like, what's going on? So I try to meet people where they're at. But so I didn't start using and drinking until after that, but I had also had another child. After, so I had Keegan, I had the abortion, and then I had Jacob, my younger son. And they're 24 and 21 now. And they're awesome. And
this is with which?
my first husband, their dad. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And it's interesting. This is an odd fact, but I knew I was so dysfunctional in the area of not being able to stay single and not sleep around. And I was so terrified to have another abortion because I was like, I can't ever have another abortion again because I knew it was hard. And so I got my tubes tied, so I'm like, I'm never doing that again. Like, I'm never doing that again. And so I only have my 2 sons, and I'm grateful for that. But, I got divorced, and life just went downhill. And then from there, like, on top of that, like I said, I got my mental health diagnosis. I was diagnosed borderline schizophrenia, bipolar, PMDD, ADHD, depression, anxiety, like everything. And
Did you ever think at any point when you had your second child that God wasn't angry with you, that he blessed you with another child?
No. And I even share that, looking back, how much of a blessing he is, because one of the side effects is infertility after abortion. Like, the rate of infertility after abortion is so high. It makes me mad.
I didn't know that.
It makes me mad.
How did I not know that?
I mean, a lot of people probably don't know that.
Wow.
So I experience a lot of women who sit in my, in my counseling rooms, and I had an abortion, I had a miscarriage, and now I'm pregnant again. Had an abortion, had a miscarriage. And it's like this thing. So when women get pregnant after abortion, I'm like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really, truly a miracle. And I didn't realize it until I started doing what I do. So, and learning about the side effects and learning about, all these things. And it became like, what a gift. But the problem is too, is that then the shame of how can I be a good mom to this one when I chose death for this one? So guilt was played into being a parent, where it was like, whew. So even that's still being worked out. Like, okay, I am still a good mom. Like they're like I'm very vulnerable and transparent with my sons. They know my whole life, and I've apologized. And one Sunday we were out to dinner. They're like, "Mom, you're never apologizing ever again. We are grateful and we love you now. Never again." I said, "Okay, I just want you to know I'm grateful, you know, because I want them to see that I can admit my mistakes,
Right.
because I want them as men to be able to do the same."
Right. It's amazing.
As you're talking right now, I was just thinking to myself, man, like, you give me hope for things that I've been through and that I'm going through and that I'm probably going to continue to go through for a little while.
Yeah.
And just with just various people that I know that are just, there's so many people,
Yeah.
so many people going through that right now.
Yeah.
And this world's like, it's like it's being swept under the rug.
It's just they're blinded
All
to
of it. And
All of
it
it.
just kills me. Oh,
And I don't think there's enough anything out there for teenagers or young adults. It's like in schools, you know, like maybe they should be talking about it in schools, you know.
Yeah. So the place that I work, they have a program, and someday you'll get to sit down with. We can't wait for the executive director to sit with you. She doesn't know it yet, but she will. That we have a program that we go into schools, and where and the taboo is the safest sex is no sex. But let's not talk about that.
Because that's not realistic.
Right. And it's like, well, these are your options. You know, and it's you and I, with the girls I sit with, I says, you have a choice. I said, you can make your choice. You are free, and I support whatever you decide, but you have to know that there are consequences and things that happen on the other side of that decision.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with those things. And so making those decisions is hard. And so the other thing that I struggle with too is, you know, I mean, there's so many rabbit trails I can go down because like, you know, like, cause sex is created, like it's just something to do. No big deal. And so then it's weird if you're not having it. And I'm just like, and then it creates like trafficking, and like the girls that I work with, and I've shared with somebody like recently, and I just was like, do you realize that you were trafficked? Do you understand that you weren't just choosing that life?
Right.
Do you realize that that's not your fault? Do you realize that?
A lot of times people that are being groomed or up for that
Don't know.
don't
I have
know
no
it.
idea.
Right.
Right.
And then by the time they do maybe realize that they feel so guilty and lost and broken, like there's no hope for me anymore.
Like it's my fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something that, yep, it's kind of, my heart is so big for those women.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how radically loved they are, and what they think is love is not love.
Yes.
And so they're like, when I share that that's not love,
Yeah.
like he says he loved you, you were 13 and he was 27. That is not love.
Yep.
That is abuse.
Yep.
And that's hard to hear,
Yeah.
you know, but it wasn't until I began to understand my abuse to see that okay, I'm not crazy.
Right.
Like now I understand why. Okay, well, if I understand the why, then it can change. I don't have to stay the same.
Right.
So it was helpful for me to see the truth. Painful.
Yeah.
It hurts. Like, I'm like, this is not fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, healing is painful. And it was explained to me this way, and I love this because it's so helpful, that a cavity is painful and a filling is painful. The difference is the outcome.
Yeah.
Cavity remains in more pain, and the filling creates healing. So you have to, choose your heart,
Yeah. Yeah.
choose your pain.
Yeah.
You're gonna go through pain. And that was helpful. I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna hurt, I might as well feel good on the other side.
Right. Right.
And so I chose the path of healing pain rather than continuous self-sabotage pain.
When you felt like you knew what you wanted, like what path to go down, did it take like a long time for you to understand some things and decide that, or was it like a click and you're like, this is what I need to do?
Well, like I said, I met with somebody back in August of 2017, and he asked me some questions, and, one of them was, who's Jesus? And I began to read the Bible and find out who this guy Jesus was, because screw him. What does he know? He doesn't know anything, this guy, because I was born in the church, raised in the church, but I kind of missed something. I missed this Jesus dude. And now I tell him, I'm like, he's the coolest dude you ever met. Like, if you don't like Jesus, you haven't met him, because he's pretty awesome. You met somebody else's version of him. That sucks. And I am sorry that you met that Jesus, because that's not the one that I know. He is the he's the most sarcastic, awesome guy. People are like, you called God guy? Yeah, like, dude, he's amazing. So when I began to do that and read the Bible and read different things, I'll say the one day that I remember I was in my apartment, and I was so codependent and rescuing that I allowed somebody to live with me. Like, she sent me where to live so she can live with me. And like, that's a lie. She definitely someone where to live. But anyway, she's like, well, Chryselle, everything's this way because, so-and-so, the way he treated you. And that's just how it is. That's how you got here. Because the way he, it's understandable that you're having such a hard time the way he treated you. And it was weird. Something like broke in me. I'm like, no, I'm here because the collection of my choices. Like, I am here right now because of every choice I've ever made.
How many people blame
everybody else?
Yeah.
And it was like, literally, I believe God kind of like hit me over the head with it, where it was like it was that.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then I'm like, I stopped. I remember I was painting, and I turned around and I had this total revelation that if my life sucks because of my choices, I can have an incredible life.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Yeah. Did you know that I can have an incredible life if I choose to? I can choose that. And so I think that's the first time when I had this revelation that, we have to have ownership. Yep. I call it own your shit. Yeah. Ownership. Yeah. Until I own it, it's not mine, so it can't be fixed. If I say it's Monica's fault, it's Monica's. It's Monica's. It's Monica's. I have no control over that because it's Monica's. Yep. I pull back and say, no, I made this choice. Oh, that wasn't a good choice. What are you learning? You can learn from it. So, like, for instance, with my kid's dad, I had so much anger. So much anger. And I'm the one who was having affairs and having an abortion. And I'm mad at him. Like, God bless this man. And I hated him. And he didn't deserve it. Was he perfect? No. But I was so angry. But it was displaced anger. And so once I was able to own my side of the road, forgiving his faults in the marriage became very easy. Because they became very minuscule. Right. And I made his life hell for years. Hell for years. Him and his wife, and hell. And part of AA is making amends. And amends is not an I'm sorry. Amends is a change. So when I got sober and started to make my amends to him is to never talk to him again. That is loving him, because I made his life hell. So now I bless him, I pray for him, and I pray peace for their family. And I
do you talk to him at all?
There is zero contact.
Have you ever? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of reaching out to him and apologizing or anything like that?
Well, for me in this situation, chalk is cheap. I said I'm sorry many times.
Oh, okay.
Like, it came out of my mouth every other week. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
So me not involving myself in their life and
causing more
pain or problems.
That's you showing
Good
your
for you.
action. That
Actions
you're sorry.
are showing my life change. Actions are showing that Jesus is really my life, not me making your life miserable. Right. And I would love an opportunity one day to, to have that conversation, but that will have to come in God's time.
Yeah.
And really, if it never comes, that's okay too, because I want him to heal from the harm that I've caused. And I believe he has in some ways. And, the one thing that I'm grateful that I didn't do was to trash talk their father to the boys, even if he was being a jerk and I was being a jerk, even if that was a thing. But he was a great dad. He's still a great dad. And I'm grateful for him really being a dad when I couldn't be the best mom that I could be. Was I the best mom I could be at that moment? Sure. I share with people that I wasn't a perfect mom.
I think when people say that, a lot of people have said that before, and people, I don't think, understand, like, you were the best that you could be with where you were physically and mentally and spiritually. You were the best that you could be at that time.
Right.
Not just, I was a great mom, even though I was completely not a great mom.
Right. When I look back and I see literally God's favor and grace on my sons, because when I got sober, they were like, what do you mean you got sober? Well, so they were with me for 50% of the time. So he was a trooper. So it was the 2 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 2 days off, like 15 days a month. They were with me for an extended period of time for many years. So I just lived 2 different lives. When they were with me, I was mom, and I had my drinking down to controlled drinking. And when they weren't with me, I was insane. And but I would go to bed early. They're like, oh. So they didn't even know how deep my addictions were because I hid it from them. Yeah. And I'm grateful for that, and it's kind of the opposite. A lot of people lose their children because of addiction. The divorce led with him having custody because of shame and guilt and all of that. I'm like, they don't deserve me as a mom. So you can have custody because I suck as a mom. I don't deserve them. The abortion led to, I suck as a mom. You're right. I don't deserve my kids. They're better off without me. So the lies I call it the lies of the enemy. Like, we're like, you don't deserve them. And I look back and I'm like, but then I have to be like, nope, this is where we are today. Right. Everything happens for a reason. And so it's been a process of learning to let go of those lies. And it's a wild story. Yeah. It's a wild story. There's so much. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a wild story. Yeah.
What if you were to, and again, you're not obligated to say anything, but obviously, if you were to think about like your lowest points and how you got through them, what were your lowest points you can remember that you're able to talk about?
Gosh.
Good question.
Lowest points. I had a lot of, I'll be honest, a lot of my lowest points were the day after I found myself in somebody's bed that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I keep saying I'm not going to do this. How do I keep landing here?
Like, why can't I control myself?
Why can't I,
make the right choices?
Yeah.
Healthy choices?
Yeah, like, they say common sense, and I don't believe in common sense because what's common for you is not common for me. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. And expecting a different result. And so I just didn't know how to stop. But what got me through, I don't know what got me through. Now looking back, I said it's only God's grace that kept me alive. It is only by the grace of God that I'm alive. Because even from when my mom was pregnant with me, I should have been dead. Like her placenta stopped feeding me 6 weeks before birth.
Oh, wow.
And I was born 4 ounces. I was 4 pounds, 4 ounces full term.
Wow.
So that is just the beginning of when I should have been dead.
God had a plan for you.
So it's like I've been, I went into anaphylactic shock when I was 21. I was on a respirator for 2 days. I've flipped my truck with no seatbelt and, windows down, high up. Like, I've lost track of the amount of times that I almost died. Not yet. It's like, you're not done. You can keep trying. You're not done yet. And now I'm like, I'm not done. I understand now. But, now I will say then I had no hope. Okay. Now I do.
Yeah.
Because I see that everything happens for a purpose, and this really pisses people off. Because when you're going through the depths of pain, it's hard to see that, what do you mean there's purpose in this? How can there be any purpose in this? Yep. Like, I am hurting. I've lost my child. I have cancer. I'm homeless. How is there purpose in this? And I always say, I don't know.
The greater your pain, the greater your testimony. I mean,
it's true. And that is hard. That's hard in the moment. And I'm cautious again how I share that, because nobody wants a cheerleader when you're in the trenches.
Yeah, I do agree. But
I'll jump in with you.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll say, I promise you this isn't forever.
Yeah. I listened to Jordan Peterson say, "Be the strongest man at your dad's funeral," and I remember hearing that quote, and for some reason this resonated with me. And it's like, being that strong person when you're able to go through those things, and when your friends and family that may know the inside story, the inside scoop of what you're going through, when you're able to hold your head up, keep pushing through that. Like, I mean, I know people that have just been through just the darkest things you could ever imagine, and they're able to recover from that. It's like, what is more beautiful than that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's, somebody shared with me, and he said every area of his pain has a face attached to it. What that means is that now every hard point, everything, there is somebody that I can sit with and say, yeah, I get it. So whenever I'm going through a hard time, I'm like, cool, I'm going to help somebody.
Yeah.
And even I remember going through divorce and going through the hard times with my kid's dad and the boys. I always said this, and now I see it. Now I'm reminded that it was a God thing. Didn't know it then, but it is now. That if I can help one person not go through what I went through, this will be worth it.
Verbatim.
Yeah.
Verbatim.
I've
been saying that for the past 2 years. I'm like, if I can
help
prevent
one person,
this will all be worth it.
Yeah.
And what I discovered is I haven't just been able to help one, I've been able to help hundreds.
Yeah.
And I just said just one. And I didn't realize I was saying a God thing then. And I looked back and thought, oh,
yeah.
Okay. And so I wanted to become an attorney so I could help people. And then I'm like 40. I can't go to school. It's like I'm going to have $500,000 in debt. And then I met Jesus, and then I find myself, walking hand in hand, helping people through addiction and alcoholism and custody and court. And I'm like, it all had a purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't just get to help one. He's with him and allowing him to walk me through these things and into people's lives. He's like, now you get to.
Yeah.
But let me heal you before you do. Because, hurt people.
Yep.
Even though you want to help them,
Yep.
you're going to hurt them. And that was the other thing that I listen. I've learned I might not be wise, but I need to listen to other people who are. And as many people as God gives me to help, he gives me to hurt. And so I have to walk cautiously to say, okay, help me to help people and not hurt them.
Yeah.
But so now I would say that when I'm going through the deep depth of it is I know it has a purpose.
Yeah.
Always purpose in pain. Now there's self-induced pain. Like running in the cold.
Yeah. I heard
Yep.
if you have a point of peace in your life when you've experienced adversity, you want to manufacture your own adversity so that way you're prepared, because life's going to give you adversity again, whether you want it to
Always
or not.
will.
And,
Always will.
And plus, I've never taken antidepressants, and I was prescribed some, not just in case, and I never touched them. And I'm not against them for other people, but for me personally,
Correct.
I just
Time and a place, and it just depends.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I just realized I'm able to get through the day-to-day motions, just
Yeah.
physical fitness, and thank
But
God
you are
for her.
also doing a lot of other things that some people don't do. Like if they take medication, a lot of times those people aren't doing the running and eating healthy and doing meditation and all the other stuff too.
Well,
So, I know
that's the hard thing. Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
And recently I've run into that. So with all of those diagnoses, as I began to grow in my relationship with God, and I began to live biblically, is what I call it. I don't like to call myself a Christian because a lot of people do, and they check the box and they suck and they represent Jesus horribly. And I'm like, please don't call yourself a Christian. So to the best of my ability, I'm a hypocrite at times. I do it wrong. It's just, I'm human. And that's why I share with people. They're like, yeah, see how screwed up you are? I said, that's my point, is that I need Jesus. And so to the best of my ability, forgiveness became pivotal. And when I began to learn to forgive and I began to learn to let go, my depression and anxiety became, also when I began to live honestly,
Yes.
Yeah.
Integrity.
my anxiety began to lift because I wasn't,
Yeah. Right.
I can't sleep at night. What's keeping you up?
Yeah.
And then forgiveness. I need to allow Jesus to heal the trauma that I've experienced, and I have to let it go. And, playing the tape in my head, I have to stop the tape from playing. so oftentimes we replay the trauma. So I had like early childhood trauma in Jamaica, and there's a fun story. I got held up at gunpoint while I was in Jamaica at 9 years old. Wow. My parents were on a missions trip, and they broke into the house and held us overnight hostages. It's a fun story. It's only a fun story now.
Yeah, right.
But I didn't realize how traumatizing it was until this. And I would replay it in my brain. And so you're reliving that trauma.
Yeah.
And so all the feels that you had.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, think about what you're thinking about. Yeah. And so I had to verbally be like, no, we're not thinking about that. We're going to concentrate on, we're having a conversation right now. Today's Saturday. It was training my mind, and the Bible calls it renewing my mind. I had to allow the neural pathways in my brain to retrain.
Be present.
And not get distracted and have it go back. Stay on your, straight and narrow.
That's a lot of work.
It is.
That's a lot of work. I'm like, how many thoughts do I have in a day? So there's a scripture that says, take every thought captive. Like, take every thought captive and bring it back to Jesus and say, it doesn't say every bad thought. It takes every thought. And I'm like, every thought?
Then you're like, all day you're like, so wait, am I thinking a thought right now? What am I doing with this one? Like.
I think it became a full-time job because my thinking was so screwed up. I'm like, there's no hope.
Then it's like you almost obsess over it, probably.
It could be. It easily could have turned into it. So I began to be like, okay, this isn't, and I had to break down some lies that I believed. It's been a process. Yeah.
Probably an ongoing, everyday.
Oh, I'm never done.
Forever, right?
Never done.
Yep.
Never done.
How long have you been working in like through organizations? Won't name organizations, but like to help other people. How long have you been doing that?
We'll call them nonprofits. There we go.
Yeah.
Nonprofit organizations that help individuals who struggle with mental health, abortion recovery, and substance abuse. There we go. We'll cover all the bases.
That's perfect.
We were just announced like on the team for Investment Capital, and they're supposed to be housing 200,000 homeless veterans, and they have a high level of focus on mental health treatment stuff for veterans. Some friends of ours. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Mallory, she was on our podcast. She drove up in September, 7 hours from Ohio, just right where you are.
Have us on the couch.
But
nice.
She's got a story, and a beautiful story of just overcoming a lot. Just
a lot of stories in one story, like yours.
And just a real person. She started her own nonprofit also. She's doing like a tiny home thing.
That's awesome.
Major focus on mental health as well, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I dove right in. I'll be honest. As soon as I got sober and met Jesus, I was like off to the races to help people. And it was a little bit over the top. I would say it was, I was in the camp of rescuing people.
Yep.
And I found you can't rescue people who want to drown.
Yep.
And then I got burned out. Thanks for that. And so it's been 7 years. So it's been the pendulum of, so I was involved in a couple, and I'm still today where, I am be who you needed.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's an interesting place to sit at.
Yeah.
Because you have to put yourself back where, in that situation that you're in, that they are in, and sit with not what did I want.
Right.
What did I need?
Yeah.
Right.
And I did this with my kids. Be the parent that you needed.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to go out and party and come home, and I'm like, oh, that's want. What did I need?
Yeah.
So I really, to the best of my ability, be who I needed. And so I look for places to do that, specifically because I spent 41 years living for myself, doing whatever I want.
Yeah.
And so now I live for the rest of my life to help others.
That is awesome.
In any capacity. And
imagine if everyone did that. Can you imagine what this world would be like right now? Oh.
Yeah.
So different.
More love.
So different.
And it's so much easier to live like that. Like once you start living like that, and it's not always going to be easy, but it is so much more.
But you sleep pretty good.
Yeah, but
so rewarding.
You feel better because the other person is feeling better, and it should be like a ripple effect.
It is hard. It is hard though, because like I said, you try to rescue people who don't want rescuing.
Yes.
And that's so I don't rescue.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest lessons I have learned in this journey of helping people is that I don't take credit. I don't take credit for your successes, because if I do that, I have to take ownership of your failures. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I plant seeds and I point.
Yep.
And I plant seeds and I point. And I plant seeds and I point. I remember early on in working with people, about 3 months in, the ministry that I was working with at the time, I talked to the executive. I'm like, how do you do this?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do this? Because I was with a girl for like in and out for a month and just doing life, and all of a sudden gone. Poof. How do you do this? He goes, well, you love who's in front of you when they're there. You plant seeds and you point. And then when they leave, you cry, you pray, you share them to Jesus, then you move on to the next one who's in front of you and you love them.
Yeah.
So what I share with people is it's a revolving door.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with people coming in and out of your life.
Yes.
And being able to release them.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at that. I'm so bad. I've always been bad at just letting go of, people that may not be good for my life and my lifestyle. And you said something 3 times that just echoed through my head, planting seeds, and it makes me think of Bernard Tony Jr. We drove down, we recorded in his living room outside of DC. He was the one that worked for the White House. He was the medical officer for President Trump and Biden. And and it, like, very, very impressive, like, accomplishments, 22-year combat vet, but his story of what he overcame to get there, he grew up in inner city, and he was in a gang or going into that gang scene, and then his friend got killed in front of him, and he decided to dedicate his life to helping other people, and that's what he did. He became a doctor. And
Worked in the White House. Like, that's crazy.
But he said something that was just so beautiful. He said, and I'm paraphrasing this horribly bad, but said essentially, you want to plant seeds for trees that are never going to provide shade for you.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's like, that is so beautiful. Doing things unconditionally, not based off the condition you're going to get something back, but that it's going to help somebody somewhere. And
yeah. And something that helped me with that and understanding that concept was that my grandmother, I say that she prayed for me for 20 years. And then it wasn't until 10 years after her death that her prayers were answered. So for me, prayer is vital. Because they never end. They echo in the heavens forever. And I tell people, I'm like, I don't care who you pray for, just pray.
Yeah.
God is not an egotistical God that needs you to name him by name. Yeah. He doesn't need for you to identify him as God. He knows who he is. Yeah. Just pray. I don't care who you pray to. Just the universe. And it's like planting the seeds is like, yep. I'm and it's hard. And the other recent one that came out that I saw, somebody said, the way that I began to look at it is that they weren't using me. Like, people, and when you love people and you go through this stuff and you do this stuff, they're like, they use me. Yeah. If you switch your perspective, no, God used you to love them.
I love it.
And I was like, ooh.
Well, I used to say that. I was saying a really cool quote that I heard that essentially the most difficult place to be is in God's waiting room. That's what I was saying like last year. And I talked to Pastor Mark Collins. He was on our podcast, and I think then in December, and he's like, no. He's like, you got it wrong. You're not in God's waiting room. You're in God's weight room. I'm like,
totally.
Training ground.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I like that so much better.
So the Bible refers to like different armies in the army of God, right?
Yeah.
And so early in our walk, I say we're in boot camp.
Okay.
Yeah.
But eventually God calls us out of boot camp and into war.
Yeah.
And so, but enjoy boot camp. You think boot camp sucks? Like, everybody complains about boot camp.
Yeah.
I've never been.
Yeah.
I tried to run away in the army. They wouldn't take me. I can't imagine why. But I was like, you're like, oh, this is so hard. I just want to go. But then you get to where you're like, man, I could really use boot camp. I would not mind sitting in the shade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like a really knowing that, like, God's seasons, it's like, okay, I would love to go back and hide under my little thing and just read my Bible all day. He's like, nope.
Yeah.
Like, I tell him all the time, like, the stuff that I've been through, I feel like I'm here to help him, protect him or whatever, but always, like, there's this noise in my head of this blacksmith that's like, tink, tink, like perfecting his armor, but he's working really hard on it, and that's like my life, you know? And
the potter's wheel.
Yeah, right?
You're the clay on the potter's wheel, and God's just kind of...
Yep.
Some days he throws you into the fire.
Let's do this. Yeah, you might crack and break, and that's that base
it's like
thing.
Trying over. Yep.
Shine in the light, like you're doing. If you were not broke at all, your light would not shine.
It's Kazinchu. Have you ever heard of that? I'm going to say it wrong and hack it, but you can put it in the notes. But it's Japanese art where they take the broken and they meld it with gold, so that the broken actually now has more value. And that for me, like if you ever see depictions in the Bible says is that Jesus' scars, like he's Jesus, he can heal, right? He's perfect and he can heal, but there are still scars.
Yeah.
You can still see his scars. He's perfect, he's God, he can heal, but he still has visible scars. So our life might still have visible scars, but that doesn't mean that we're not healed.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like all of us walk around with scars, but they tell a story.
Than others. Yeah.
They tell a story.
Yeah, they do.
So who gets to hear your story?
Exactly.
I can't wait to hear your story. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Someday.
I wish.
I mean, I can tell you some after this,
Well,
but
no, someday it'll be fun.
yeah,
We should have coffee.
for real.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Arrow came up here now.
Yeah, she was zonked out. Her tongue was sticking out when she was on the floor.
She's like, hey, cuddling down.
She's okay today because she got some exercise.
Yeah. She's a sweet baby. She's a good girl.
Yeah, it's quite the journey, you know.
Yeah, every day.
And it's a choice. It's replacing lies with truth every day.
Yeah.
You know, and life is hard, and try not to be so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good. And so many people walk around like everything's okay, and I don't.
Yeah.
I wish more people were like that.
Life's not that serious, I believe. I believe people take it way too serious.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think there's so much. My thing is I realized how much I can control when I was going through my hard times. You know, still going through them, but before I really had this mindset shift. Whereas
Everything's out of control.
yeah,
Right.
Everything.
It sucks. I was going to therapy. I still am going to therapy, but
Awesome.
I was going to therapy, and I remember my therapist at the VA saying, like, "Okay, here's what I need you to do. Here's your homework. You're going to draw a circle." And you're going to draw another circle
My
outside of that
favorite.
one. And she's like, anything inside this circle is within your control, things outside. And I listened to her say that
I love that.
for months. And I listened to her. But did I really listen? I didn't hear her at all. I heard her, I didn't listen.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, one day when I was broken, actually, that was when I talked about it. You know, I won't go through the whole story, but essentially, it was the first time I, fell to my knees. I'm like, God, I don't feel like I'm faithful enough to ask you for help, but please just let me know I'm on the right path. And it's just weird how that all just transpired. And
Yeah.
Well, you open yourself up to God, and amazing things happen. It's crazy.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
It's literally wild.
Yeah.
Because
Your life changes, and you don't think it could
and
change like that.
I tell people, I'm like, it's not religion.
yeah,
People are like, oh, you're religious. I'm like, I'm not.
Right.
I follow Jesus, and he's not it's so different. It's so hard to explain because I grew up in church. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even now, there are a lot of people that go to church, and somebody explained it to me in a really neat way, that there is the visible church, like everybody's in the church, we're all visible.
Yep.
But then there's the invisible church that, unless you've come into a relationship and understanding who Jesus is in a real way, that's the invisible church. And not everybody in the visible church is in the invisible church.
Yes.
And I was like,
Yeah.
well, that makes
So
complete
true.
sense.
Yeah.
I like that because I was not a part of the invisible church until 41. So much so that in 2009, I was just like, screw this God stuff. I became a pagan witch and active in witchcraft from 2009 to 2017.
really.
Interesting.
And in fact, that's where I met Jesus, was in my hangout room where my altars and my stones and all my witchy things, I call them.
Yep.
Reading the Bible.
Huh.
Yeah. Yep. I said, geez, got jokes. It's like, go ahead.
Guess what I'm gonna have you
Go
do now?
ahead.
You
You're going to
try.
have me do lots of uncomfortable things. Awesome. But yeah, I think everybody has a story, and I think everybody wants, not everybody, because that's a definite term. I don't like definitives.
Yeah.
But a majority of people just want to be able to be heard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or at least have somebody listen that genuinely cares.
Yeah.
You know, that was me.
Yeah.
Having people that actually give a shit when you talk to them.
Yeah.
That is
But
so
I
powerful.
think what's almost almost more powerful is someone will watch this that connects with you personally and specifically so much that you're going to help them heal and you will never see them in person.
No.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that is like crazy,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
A repeated thing that I've been getting a lot lately is because this whole journey, this podcast thing is just, I have worried about judgment. When I say you have no idea. Like, I've always suffered from imposter syndrome. I've always been pretty insecure most my entire life, actually. Then the last, I'll say 6 months or so now, I guess maybe at this point, where things, with what we're doing is kind of ramped up and kind of just feeling validated. And it's cool because very recently, it's like there's people that I know and that I really respect and love that are just like, I admire you doing something that gives you purpose, because I have a lot of friends and family that they're doing things and they're happy with their lives and stuff, and then some that just they really they have good lives, but they don't really have any purpose, and I'm just like, I take that for granted now, and I realize that I take granted for having this purpose. And I mean, I think every human on this planet, we take everything for granted. You can do your best.
Can't help
you
it.
can
We're
do your
human.
best to try to appreciate and be grateful. And just talking to people that have lost their spouses, we've talked about this on a ton of other podcasts, but I don't think you know this. Our podcast guest, her name is Alessandra. It's her best friend.
One of my best friends from high school.
Wow.
It was her and her husband and their 2 dogs were walking less than a mile from their house.
This is this year Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, and her and one of her dogs were hit in front of her husband and died. And I'm just like, is this real? It still kind of doesn't seem real, but and of course I freaked out for a couple days, and normally I would have been a mess for ever. Yeah. But I am in a spot in my life where I know where she is.
Yeah.
And my relationship with God and my faith, and I miss her, and I know everyone misses her, but I'm okay because I know where she is. Right. I feel like I know where she is.
She sat where you were sitting telling her life story, and her life story. The thing is, it's the whys that I have. When I get to heaven, if I'm going to be why, one of my whys is going to be why put somebody through so much pain and suffering from such a young age?
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah.
And then why cut her life short? She had such a beautiful life.
But it's just so strange because she told her story, and then after that happened, and she can help everyone forever.
Hopefully, yeah. You're
right.
I just.
Yeah, and just like her family, they're like, thank you, because now they can go back and watch it. Yeah. Yeah. I in my brain, if I think about it too much, I'll start crying.
And it was weird for me though. It's like
you don't realize what's in front of you, what's in front of you.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And then you're like,
right. And so often, with him or with the kids or family and friends and stuff, or with her, it's like I try and I'm aware I'm trying to soak it in.
Right.
As hard as I can.
Right.
As much as I can. And I can't do it enough.
You can't.
No. We can't.
No, we can't. And we don't realize it. And
yeah.
Like you said, being present, work. This day and age, we're so, we're conditioned.
Yes.
Conditioned, and it's work to not be.
Right, exactly.
This reel's a minute long. I'm not watching it. It's got to be 5 seconds. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you're talking for more than 5 minutes. I'm not listening.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
slow down.
Yeah. I remember when I went to Kenya on a missions trip. And life was so radically different. If people don't travel to third world countries on any level, I highly recommend it. And I highly recommend not being a tourist. Go with a mission. Okay. And it speaks to that area of purpose. Mm-hmm. And when I came back, I was doing peer work, and there's a lot of entitlement in addiction. Mm-hmm. Speaking for myself, everybody owed me something. Mm-hmm. And I came back and I was working with people, and I had a really hard time because I'm like, I'm over here and they're happy that I sat with them and sang a song. And it was just it messed with my reality. Mm-hmm. That here in America, I'm so spoiled. I am so spoiled. But going back to your purpose, it's I believe now that every one of us, it's like that God-shaped hole in my heart that he created for him. Mm-hmm. All of us have a purpose. Yeah. It's not random that we're here. It's not random that you're sitting there, not random that you're sitting there. Like, there is a purpose for your life. And I believe you don't find peace until you find that purpose. And only God can give you that purpose.
Right.
Like, we're all created for something.
Yeah.
What did God create you for?
You know, it's kind of really funny, and I always, like, for some reason, my brain goes to Tinkerbell because all the fairies have their little jobs. You know what I mean? For some reason, it just does. And, like, there's tinkers, there's, like, the cooks or whatever, the farmers, I don't know, but
There's
everyone
something.
has their thing.
There's something. And if you don't have a purpose, you wander. You wander around completely.
I gotta look up a quote while you guys are talking real quick.
Those who wander aren't always lost.
No.
Is this real life?
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny.
Yeah, purpose is huge. And that's,
It's sad when people, like, I guess I don't realize, I know what it's like to not feel like I have purpose. Because my whole life, really, I was wandering, or lost. And now just doing this.
You're like,
and I'm 40, and it's like, now I just found it.
Wow.
And it's such a long life.
You're ahead of me.
Yeah. but it's like, it's just really weird to wrap your head around it. And some people find it way earlier and way later. And
well, that's it. I tell my sons, I'm like, you guys are like 25 years ahead of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, awesome. Keep it up. And my son said something, and somebody said, didn't you find that insulting? I'm like, no. He said, my ceiling is his floor. And I thought,
wow.
I really like that.
Yeah.
They're like, that's not, I'm like, no, that's wonderful.
That's amazing.
That's a great way to look. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think
wild.
differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I gave him ceiling so he can please move ahead of me.
Yeah. And everyone's
100%.
story, when you're saying that, everyone that's hearing it during this episode and people that you help are going to pull pieces from you, and you're going to pull pieces from them, and it's all so, like, intertwined. And
so intertwined.
Yeah.
Like, you don't realize how much people have in common in their life until you sit with them and you're like,
Yeah.
The number one lie that I found that nobody understands.
Yeah.
And there's nobody like me.
Right. Right. And your enemies.
I think if you're vulnerable with people, like you'll find similarities with just about anyone, if not anybody. It's a matter of whether or not you can peel back those layers and be vulnerable.
Right.
And like me being a dude, especially like coming from the
guys are
military and
difficult.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if you're vulnerable, you're weird. Which I'm pretty weird, but I'm okay with it.
Well, it's there's this lie that if you're vulnerable, it's weakness.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That. Yep.
And I'm like, I actually see men as stronger.
Yeah.
If they
maybe it's societal, maybe it's me, maybe it's shifting. But when I was growing up, if a man cried, you were weak.
Oh, man,
when a man cried now, I'm like, that's one strong man.
Exactly.
It's literally, I live in opposite world now. I'm like,
I feel the same.
I'm like, something switched in and I know it was God's eyes opening my, like I was believing all these lies, and he began to open my eyes, and I'm like, oh, that's not true. Now I'm like,
what is happening?
This is completely weird now. I live in upside down. It's opposite George.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Seinfeld and opposite George, but yeah. Yep. So I live in opposite George, and that was the one thing my brother, God bless him, he would speak truth to me even though I didn't like it. But the one thing that he said, if your life isn't going the way you like it, why don't you try doing the opposite?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's dumb.
For most people, it's because it takes work. A lot of people just don't want to put any effort into anything. They just want things to be easy, which they're never going to be if you don't
What's
put in
that
work.
saying? Is that the pain of change, when the pain of staying the same is more than the pain of change, will you begin to change?
Yes. I feel like I heard something on LinkedIn about something like that.
Similar, like until the pain of staying the same is bigger than the change of pain, well, nothing changes.
Right.
And you have to want that change.
Yep.
And I understand that there are obstacles. And I am sympathetic to abuse. I'm sympathetic to addiction. And I'm sympathetic to all of these, hurdles.
You're right.
But
we must all suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is the discipline weighs ounces while the regret weighs tons. That's, who is this from?
Gotta get props.
That's Jim Rohn. Yeah, I got to get
there you
props. Go. I absolutely love that quote so much too.
It's, you got to, you know what I mean? It's like, you have every day is a choice.
Yep.
And that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Right.
Because with myself, I have a trainer and he's great. that I have been ignoring for 3 months. And so,
Poor thing.
I told him, when I'm coming back from Florida, I'm going to see you, because it was funny, because I had a dream, like, and the dream was I was having a conversation with somebody, and I don't even know who somebody was. They're like, "Why don't you get back into the gym to the 2 days a week where you were consistent?" Because we upped it and I bounced. And I'm like, so in the dream, it was go back and see your trainer, twice a week. And I woke up and I'm going about my day. He texts me and goes, "Hey, Mr. Chryselle, how are?" I'm like, well, apparently I'm going to see you when I get back from Florida. So I complain that I'm not strong, but I'm not doing the work to get strong.
Right.
You can't, then I've lost the right to complain.
Yeah.
You can't complain. And, you know, the Bible says that it's no longer I, but Christ lives in me. And I'm dead if Chryselle's dead and it's Jesus now. If I'm living in Christ, Chryselle's dead. There's pirates. Dead men don't complain.
Yep.
I cannot complain. I have to, there's work to be done. You can't.
Exactly.
I don't know why I can't. What are you doing?
Well, and also people always think it's like greener on the other side, but you don't know. And I said something stupid about it. I was like, the people on the other side that have the green grass worked for it. Maybe they, they're cutting it and watering it and stuff, but you don't see that. But you want that?
Yeah.
Like, you got to work for it too.
Yeah.
If that's what you want.
Or the bullseye. Everybody sees a bullseye. They want their life. Oh, I want Monica's life. You see the bullseye.
Right.
You got to have the whole board.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They see the...
They see this
work
fun
we're
conversation
putting in
we're having. They're like,
Right.
oh, I want that.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Do you know what the board is? You know what those
Right.
other things are? Yeah. And I was like, oh, I don't want your life. I don't know what the board is.
I know.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, though, I often think, like, when I'm complaining about... Because I've been through very, very serious things, but it's like when I'm complaining to some people that are friends or family, and I know that they don't have a Monica, or they don't have an Arrow is crazy. Like, that dog is amazing. She
is amazing.
I got her the start of the hardest point in my life. The exact time I got her was like, I was like, what am I doing? We did not need a puppy right now. And it ended up being the biggest blessing, or one of the few or many biggest blessings that we've had in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And now she has, I like to say, she's trained me to run her off leash, because we run all around Sylvan Beach, all completely off leash. She'll stay right next to me, and it's
that's impressive.
The smartest
Such a good
dog.
girl.
Oh,
She's dogs are great. Dogs are so great, but life is good, you know.
Do you want to? We're at about an hour now, right?
Does it tell on there?
Oh, holy cow! We're at an hour and 20 minutes. Really? Yeah, we're at an hour and 20 minutes. 80 minutes. I lied. I can't do math. Let's kill the
hour and
recording.
20 minutes.
Everybody that's watching this, thank you so much for watching. We're gonna hang out and talk. So sorry. Have a good night.
Quiet. Yeah.